By now, I'm sure many of you have seen this video where Shlomo Kramer is talking about limiting the First Amendment. Hold on, here it is, and I'll be right back on the other side.
And I know it's difficult to hear, but it's time to limit the First Amendment in order to protect it, and quickly before it's too late. Control the platforms. All the social platforms, the government should
control the social media.
Should do that.
Yeah, that's a tiny bit alarming. And so I'm going to take the opportunity this morning to talk about the First Amendment, because I think the more we're educated about what our rights are, the better off we are. Now, let me preface this by saying this is once again one of those times where I have done a podcast episode about this. I've done a deeper dive than most Americans probably do on your average Thursday. But here I am, ready to share with you the transcripts. Now, for those of you who don't know, my podcast, it's actually a movie review podcast. But this season, I picked a bunch of movies that are about really important fucking topics, like the First Amendment. And this transcript comes from, I think it's like episode 7, where I covered The People versus Larry Flynt. It's about obscenity and the freedom of press. And so I think you should go watch it. But here's the transcript, and let's see if we can learn something together today, shall we? Start with a little history lesson here. I'm going to read it to you first in case you've never heard the whole thing. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of their grievances. So translated, the First Amendment protects 5 things. It protects the freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, the right to assemble, and the right to petition your government. Okay. It prevents the federal government from passing laws that infringe on these rights. And through the 14th Amendment's due process clause, you're also protected from state governments. Okay. So those of you who argue like, well, I was at a restaurant and they told me I couldn't yell hateful things, that's private business. The First Amendment protects you from the government telling you that you can't say what you want to say. Okay. The First Amendment is about government intruding on your rights. Now, bear with me. Here we go. The First Amendment remains today exactly as it was written by our founding fathers. However, the meaning and the application of the First Amendment have evolved over time through numerous judicial decisions by the Supreme Court and congressional actions. Okay. It originally only applied to the federal government, then was later incorporated into the states. There have been significant expansions. Did you hear what I just said? Expansions of its protections over time. So as we've evolved as a people, we've had to protect more things. This includes symbolic speech, which can include actions such as burning a flag. None of us love it, but it is protected. It includes the right to receive information, which became necessary to prevent government censorship of libraries and other sources of information that people were seeking to obtain. First Amendment protections have also extended to new forms of communication, including film, radio, TV, and the internet. Okay. Over time, we have learned that many things cannot and should not be considered protected speech under the First Amendment. So there are some exceptions, right? There should be exceptions to every single amendment, and that also means the second. There should be exceptions, rightfully so. This would include incitement to imminent lawless, aka inciting a riot, true threats, defamation, child pornography, fraud, perjury, speech that is part of a larger criminal scheme, fighting words, which I find very interesting, and of course, obscenity. Now, obscenity has its own separate rules and classifications, which have also evolved over time. I won't go into all of that, but that was the reason I was making this podcast episode, is because we were going to talk about Larry Flynt. And now I'm fast forwarding in the transcript because I spend 20 minutes talking about the movie. Not going to do that here. So mind you, this was recorded several months ago, so this is a little outdated, but I think it's still important. As we come to the end of 2025, I don't know if I've ever witnessed a more concerning moment for freedom of speech. Not since the early 50s, when Americans were caught in the grip of McCarthyism, have we seen a government working so hard to silence its own citizens. We are seeing current debates over regulating hate speech, censorship of offensive content on college campuses and in the arts, and legal challenges surrounding social media platforms and government officials' online interactions. Our government is also taking action to ban social media content and has begun deporting individuals based on their speech. Late night talk shows are being suspended because a host has the temerity to make fun of the president. People who speak against in Gaza are accused of being anti-Semitic. And if you offer anything less, even slightly less than a full-throated support of this guy, they accuse you of hating and wishing harm on all the Jews around the world, which simply is not true. Admitting you're ambivalent to the death of this guy suddenly means that you lack patriotism or that you cheer gun violence. At least I'm not lighting off fucking fireworks like his widow, but that's another video. Politicians, CEOs, and foreign leaders who say favorable things about the president are rewarded with power, money, and an infinitely easier pathway to success. Anyone speaks against him is persecuted as the enemy. They are threatened with incarceration, deportation, lawsuits, and cancellation. Our government is in overdrive, trying to curb political dissent. Our Attorney General has vowed to prosecute hate speech, despite the Supreme Court repeatedly affirming that it is protected by the First Amendment. Never mind that she's so fucking ignorant that she thinks that hate speech is just when people say mean stuff about her and the president. Everything else is perfectly fine. They are going after television networks who consistently criticize the president or his job performance. They have targeted law firms who are associated with special counsel investigations or represent clients bringing cases against them or members of his administration. They have withheld funding from colleges and universities who won't censor public speech on their campuses. And where is the opposition party? At a time when Democrats in Congress should be doing the most, they remain silent. Where's our news media, newspapers, magazines, brave journalists who have throughout history been on the forefront of every major revolution? Where are the rich and powerful? Where are the CEOs and celebrities and business owners who claim they love democracy, yet sit silently as it's stolen away from us? There aren't nearly enough authors, artists, and musicians speaking up at this critical time. The people who exercise free speech in everything they do, every product they deliver, is cloaked in the protection provided by our founding fathers, yet many of them remain silent. At this point, I feel like the only people fighting back, the only people brave enough to say what needs to be said, are Gavin Newsom, the creators of South Park, and a handful of podcasters and influencers. What we need, what this generation needs, is a brash, rich as fuck revolutionary who doesn't give two shits about being liked. Someone willing to take on the establishment, get arrested over and over again. Someone willing to fight the fight and not care about your fucking feelings. Someone with nothing to lose and a big fucking megaphone. Someone needs to step up and be this generation's Larry Flint. Happy New Year.